Well, let's move on down to our next story. Leaving that one, let's go to Ghana, where Ghana's Electoral Commission has declared former President John Dramani Mahama the winner of Saturday's presidential election with 56.55% of the vote. Vice President and ruling party candidate Mahamudu Bawumia conceded defeat on Sunday to ease the tensions, if you recall.
The commission announced results from 267 of 276 constituencies with voter turnout at 60.9%. Mahama returns to power after serving as president from 2012 to 2016. Addressing supporters, he pledged to meet the aspirations of Ghanaians and avoid the governance failures that led to the country's recent economic crisis.
Let me clear a few things first. One, about my Nigerian antecedents. My stepmother is Nigerian, who raised me. She comes from Kwara State. And so what Kayode was explaining was that at a point in time when there had been a coup in Ghana, my father lived in exile here in Nigeria. And I had to come and stay with my stepmother for many years in Offa. So I know Offa quite well. And I consider that my hometown here in Nigeria. And the Olofa of Offa was very gracious to grant me a chieftaincy title. And so for those of you who don't know, I'm the Are Atolashi of Offa Kingdom.
Well, quite an expose there. Anyway, joining us to discuss what this win means for Ghanaians and the Ghana economy is Director of Business Operations at Dalex Finance. Joe Jackson joins us this morning. Pretty much we share the same initials, if I may say. Good morning to you and welcome to Breakfast Central.
Good morning and good to be on your program this morning. It's a good morning in Ghana.
Oh, great, great. Let me start off first by saying, how does it feel like, especially for you and for other Ghanaians, looking at the fact that you do have a vice president by the name Professor Okpoku Nana Jane Ageman, one that everyone is talking about as it's unprecedented. Looking at the fact that, she's a woman. What's your take on that?
I started by saying it's an excellent day for Ghana, and it's a good day because first and foremost, the elections were largely, and I say largely, there were isolated incidents of violence, but they were largely without violence. And the quick concession by the vice president made things even simpler. And then we've chalked a very important first, which is that we have a female vice president, a woman who was the first female vice chancellor in the country, was a minister of state for education, and now is the vice president-elect. It's an exciting time for all Ghanaians, and we feel that for the first time, there's enough diversity in the government to make a big difference. She's a fine, upstanding woman, and we only have good things to say about her.
I think it's a wonderful time to be a woman, and it's a wonderful time for women. I mean, in the past, I think 1 or 2 weeks, we're hearing now of Ghana's female vice president, and we've also heard about Namibia's president, who, of course, is the country's first female president. So very exciting times indeed, and we look forward to seeing more women emerging in positions of leadership. But let's talk about what the key areas will be. We know that Ghana's economy has been one major area of struggle, especially within the past administration, within the current administration. It's been one area of criticism. So what would you say are some of the key areas that the new president will need to tackle head on, especially looking at it vis-a-vis the expectations of Ghanaians?
The new president has asked for, or the new president-elect has asked for a honeymoon. And I believe that is going to be very critical to his being able to meet the expectations of Ghanaians. He says, give me 6 months where I can start to take charge of the situation and do what is necessary to be done. Listen, Ghana's economy is in the doldrums. And everything is now about the economy, the economy, the economy. And he needs to take charge of the economy. The first problem we face is that we've been locked out of the international markets and cannot borrow. Yet at the same time, if we say we're going to just exist on revenue we raise locally, the economy is going to crash. At the same time, he's actually promised to to take off what he calls some nuisance taxes. His first problem will be revenue generation. How do I generate new forms and sources of revenue in this current system? The second problem was, how do I get back to the international markets so that I can relieve the pain of Ghanaians? It's a tough one. He's between a rock and a very hard place. The other expectations of Ghanaians will be that there's a lot of talk about corruption, and he's promised a program called Operation Recover or Loot, oral, and he says he's going to recover all monies that have been put away wrongly. Ghanaians are expecting that he does that. If he doesn't recover the loot, in quotes, Ghanaians will be angry because we feel that the government that has just been voted out has been extremely corrupt. It's also not going to be easy because he has to do this within the confines of the law. So here's a tough one. He has to fix the economy, and he has to attack the issue of corruption.
All right. Looking at the economy, trying to revive it back, you also have the issue of corruption, like you've rightly said. Let's also look at one aspect, which has to do with providing, especially jobs for the youths. Like I've taken note of, Ghana has similarities with that of Nigeria in terms of its challenges. For instance, the CD has fallen at least by 70% in its value. So the exchange rate of the CD to a dollar is what you could liken to what you see in Nigeria to the dollar. Could you help us with a clear picture of how bad is it, especially for Mahama as he's coming on board as president? How bad is it for him to take Ghana from where they are to where they're going to, focusing on the youths and job creation?
This is as bad as you can imagine. Listen, 2 years ago, 2024, 2.5 years ago, 2022, 2.5 years ago, if you got paid 600 CDs, you would get $100. Today, if you got paid 600 CDs, you get $30.
Wow.
Or $32. That's wiped out. Anything from 68 up to 68% of your purchasing power is just gone. There are no jobs. The public purse, government coffers are empty. We've been locked out of the international market. We cannot borrow. We are under an IMF regime. There's not enough revenue being raised. The government cannot create jobs by just going out and doing the whole thing of creating programs and employing the youth. This time, jobs are only going to be created because you get the SME sector to work. Meanwhile, the SME sector is hamstrung by an extremely high inflation rate. I could go on and on. That's why I say that this President-elect Mahama is between a rock and an extremely hard place.
Right.
He's got to get the SME sector going. He's got to create a way, he's got to find a way to bring interest rates down almost immediately so that the SME sector can get going. Yet at the same time, he needs to borrow. The country will crash if he doesn't borrow. And yet, all the debts that we've accumulated are going to come due starting February 2025. In 3 months' time. That's not a very pleasant place to play. to be.
All right.
And really, it's going to be a tough one. If he can even do half the things he's promised to do, this country will hail him as one of the best presidents ever.
How important is the conversation about Galamsey in looking at restoring Ghana's economy? There are those who believe that if the problem of illegal mining can be tackled in Ghana, that to a large extent, Ghana's economy will return to what it should be. Is that a perspective that you agree with? And how much focus do you think the incoming president will be able to focus on this?
Galamsey represents, in one swoop, the best opportunities for Ghana to get out of its current challenges. Estimates of Ghana's gold deposits are as high as $10 trillion. Our gold estimates, our gold deposits are much bigger than oil deposits that we have. And if we fix the issue of Galamsey, we have the prospect of exporting gold to get ourselves out of the challenges we have. But the Galamsey challenge is intractable. It employs anything up to 500,000 Ghanaian youths directly, and indirectly about 3 million people. The practices are so bad that half of Ghana's water bodies have been destroyed, have turned into muddy brown. There's lead in our water that we drink, heavy metals, and we are in deep trouble because of the practices of this illegal mining. The illegal miners have a lot of money and have brought local authorities to stop them from intervening in their operations. So that is another huge problem. And yet, if he resolves the issue of illegal mining, if he gets on the right side of the international market with regards to sustainable gold mining, that could be one sure way of getting out of Ghana's problems.
Okay. Well, I think you've highlighted some of these key areas, and we would be hoping to see if some of these challenges can be nipped in the bud. We do have a little time left, but we'd like to go on a quick break. And at this juncture, I want to also say thank you so much for taking time to join us. You've broken all of these things down, helping us to see the possibility of getting Ghana back on track. Thank you so much for joining us. Director of Business Operations at Dalex Finance, Joe Jackson. Thank you for your time.
A little correction, I'm the CEO of Dalex Finance.
CEO, great. All right, thank you so much for joining us, the CEO, Joe Jackson. Thank you for your time.
Thank you too. Bye.
All right.